Good evening and welcome back
to
what was
Ozfrank,
that?
Seepiya TV.
Seeping into your soul.
Seeping into your soul, baby.
Baby. This series of interview questions is going to be with the use of some amazing cutting edge technology, because Ozfrank are moving into the realm. So I thought, in watching recently Michael Jackson's documentary, This Is It, something, I hope I got that right, I was amazed at Michael Jackson. Never been into Michael Jackson before, but I saw Michael Jackson in as this grand beast in his physicality, and I watched it and I thought to myself, oh my god, this is everything that I'm learning with our Frank Suzuki method, and I want to talk to John about this. We've had a brief conversation about Gaga before and contemporary performers, etc., etc. So this is where we're going to today. So we're discussing a selection of performers from across the field of performance, and to discuss them in terms of what I learned with the Suzuki training method and the relevance of theatre and theatricality in today's society. That's where we'll go to.
3 parts. Really.
3 parts. So I'm going to show John some clips, and we'll have a bit of discussion about, and then move on. Okay, so the first one, using YouTube, public, free to air everything. I want to talk about Michael Jackson. Now, this is not the footage from the documentary, okay, which was super outstanding, and if I can find that, I'll get that one day. But so I went through all the clips, and this is one of the best that I thought represented his knowing who he is, his complete understanding of being centered, and of totally being himself. He knows where he is, what every single part of his body is doing at every single moment, and he's the myth. He's totally it. So now Michael Jackson's a dancer, okay, so I don't really rate his singing too much, but
he can sing
as a dancer,
that, but the point is he's an amazing dancer.
He's an amazing dancer,
up there with Elvis and Iggy Pop, actually.
And we could always do some I'll find those other ones that you've talked about, those type of people. So I just want you to
well, see, what you're seeing here is just incredible self-definition. When he stopped, he's really stopped, and he knows he's stopped, and he also feels himself stopped, I should say.
Yep.
So I reckon those 3 things are the crucial things. I mean, obviously the choreography suits his personal idiosyncrasy.
Yes.
And in fact, what Michael Jackson's dancing, his idiosyncratic way of moving, has actually become a style of dancing in itself.
Sure.
So I mean, he has actually made something, and then that thing's actually become a discipline in itself, as it were. And so many dancers you see, or these rockstar type guys like him, are actually really copying his style. He's become the guy who made the template. They've all sort of copied it. It's obviously based not on incredible facility, in the sense that he hasn't got legs that kick up and things like that.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the notion, it's the stillness that you're looking at there.
It is, totally, isn't
That's
it?
what people are really surprised, the stillness and the actual, so.
And it's that stillness between the next movement, like that defines exactly where he is, and his specificity of movement. It is, you know, he's not trying to do all of these things at once. It's this, or it's this with a bend,
and
or
simplicity.
Absolute simplicity. And obviously there's a lot of repetition, and you know, he was dancing like this until he was 52 or whatever, and repeatedly, or so-called died, allegedly.
All right, you
No,
know.
I don't know about it.
Elvis has just left the room stuff. Yeah, well, but it's also, you see, there's also an amazing, this the other thing you see with somebody like him, is that he has this memory inside him
Yes.
of where that thing's going and of how we are going to receive it. He doesn't know how we're going to receive it, but he actually has this sense of, as he does something, of how it's going to be received.
Yes.
So of course it has its own integrity as a movement, but he's also very aware of how that's going to be accepted.
Yeah.
In other words, what happens?
He's just like he's a lead brick there.
Oh yeah. So
He's
it's
a magnet to the floor.
That's
like,
right.
he
It's very relaxed. You see.
He's
That's the other
totally
thing.
relaxed.
He's not gripping the floor. He's into the floor.
Yeah.
He looks as though he's connected deeper than the actual surface of the floor to something that's actually
Exactly.
underneath it. And you're right. That's the one great move he does with.
Yeah, the big leg kick.
And of course.
And you know, even though he's got all these other dancers around him who are younger and more agile and can kick higher and you know, but really, I mean, well, I guess he owns a style, so it's him.
Well, yeah, that's right. See, it becomes like Jimi Hendrix. It becomes
Sure.
hard to copy because, of course, he's there and you never quite get there because he's made it.
Yeah.
And it comes out of his own incredible sense of... I was saying this before about Blake, in the sense that he was very Blake. And so what happens is, in order to transcend your time, you have to be incredibly yourself. So of course he's made this thing totally out of himself, that whole style of what we're looking at, which
Yes.
of course has become so generic across the whole way a whole lot of people do things. He actually made that. That came out of his body. And so because it came out of his body, it actually exists universally as well. Because it's not copying something that everybody's doing, which means that exists for the time, it actually exists in his time and also universal time. And so that's when it becomes mythical. And as you say, people are sort of copying this. And every time you look at somebody dancing, it actually makes you think of Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy that wrote the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
But your point about the fact that he's completely grounded, you see, he's very calm all the time. And this is why I say this in the training, you so if that was your leg, that's got to be into the ground, but it can't be rigid, because if it's rigid, you're a brick, you know, you're a rock, you're a dead thing. So of course that has to be incredibly soft too at the same time. So this energy going into the floor must be reading the floor as much as it is existing on the floor. And you see this with anybody who's really, really good. You don't see this thing we call tension with people like that in that situation.
Do you think it's because he's a dancer?
How do you mean?
I mean, is he, I don't know enough about him, whether he had some training or whatever. I think he's just been a performer, show guy for, you know, since he was a baby.
Yeah, 8 or something.
Yeah.
Well, I doubt if he'd have any training in the sense of doing ballet class for a number of years. His father was incredibly motivated to make the family and the boys successful.
Right.
So he would have made them do sort of jazz ballet classes and stuff like that. So he would have had that type of training, yes. Show dance type training.
Show dance, yeah.
Which is, you know, kickball chains and sort of tappy sort of
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But that would be just a rhythmic thing. But I mean, really, see what he's doing there, really anybody could do, just with training. With practice, I should say, not training, practice, by just doing it, you know, over and over and over again, which is what he's done. Yeah.
Do you think that's a fairly good? I mean, that's not the best clip that
No, it doesn't have to be though.
But you see what I mean by him being a contemporary, almost a representation of what the Suzuki training, how that can manifest in your body.
Really, with a whole type of training and sort of an intelligent program, we can get to pretty close to what he's getting, because he's not. I can show you, stuff with people like Sylvie Guillaume, these ballet, and you'll never ever get there. I could never get there because their facility is just so incredible that you can't possibly emulate it, no matter how much training you do. But the language that he's doing, the vocabulary of what he's doing, is actually really achievable by anybody.
Yeah.
And of course, the question is, okay, how do you train that up? And that's what we do in the training. So we can get people, not obviously at Jackson's level,
Yeah.
of charisma,
Yep.
because that's something else that's accrued over time.
Sure.
But you can get to those people's facility, mainly by making them feel themselves more in the moment.
Yes.
Really. It's very simple.
Yep.
You're probably discovering now, more than you ever thought, this is actually about feeling. We tend to think it's all about sort of doing things, and I've got to get this, and I should be like that.
Yes.
But actually, it's much more about feeling yourself in whatever situation it is. And it's an easy thing to say feel, but it's quite demanding. You know, if you've got these sort of jobs you have to do, I've got to stand up, I've got to sing, I've got to say these words. Of course, they're all demands that sort of, shall we say, weaken your resolve.
I think with the feeling, people think feeling, if we talk about feelings, we're talking about emotions. You know, and that's not
that type of feeling.
That's not it.
No, but that's another thing too. Of course, that's important as well.
Yeah, but that's not, this is actually feeling what it is to experience yourself in time
experiencing
and
you,
space.
experiencing what you're doing. So many times you'll see on stage people are doing things and they're sort of singing a song or they're saying the words, and you get the words, but you actually don't get what they're doing inside the words. And often, in fact, when you watch somebody, before they start to sing, before they start to say, they look fine. And the act of speaking, the act of singing, you sort of lose them. They sort of disappear. The words come out at you, but they disappear. And that's because they're lost inside that experience, and they're not occupying that experience. They're sort of presenting it possibly.
Yeah.
And that's a very big thing, how to sort of present a movement or present a situation. But what we're talking about here is how do you occupy it? So when you look at somebody like Jackson in that situation, he is really occupying everything he's doing.
Yeah.
He's not presenting it.
You know, that's right.
He's occupying it, and we're a witness to that occupation. We're witness to that.
Presenting.
Presenting this idea of sort of pushing it
Yeah,
out.
that's-
No, it's
that's
actually about me doing this
good.
stuff here, and that's what sucks the audience in. If you push it out, they're sort of impressed in a way. But if you actually sort of say, if you occupy it, then they actually come into you. They want to be part of that. They're actually drawn into it because they can see that you're compelling. Rather than you sort of saying, hey, look at me, I'm compelling, or trying to be compelling, you are actually compelling inside your being, and that actually pulls the audience into you. And that feeling, like you say, it's not emotion, that's another thing.
Yeah.
And it's really got not much to do with that. This is actually something that supports that emotionality, if you like. But it's feeling as in different from thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you've got your rational mind, you've got your instinctive mind. It's the instinctive space. And no matter what Jackson might be thinking or doing, the instinctive part of his, say, being, is actually what's predominant in that moment when we're watching that clip. So
that's
really, most people can get to something like to that space. Of course, you can't take them further because it actually takes a little bit of talent, but you can actually prepare them for those situations, and that's what that's about.
If you'd like to be a magnet to the floor, come to training.